The following feature presentation is part of the Skywalking Network.
This is what you can look forward to on episode 418 of Skywalking Through Neverland.
What is that one shot that just brought a tear to your eye when you heard the audience just going crazy?
So then the news comes out that it's JJ doing Force Awakens. And I knew then that I would not be doing the film because JJ Abrams hates me. No, because he never made me.
We want to hear that story.
It's also one of the most quoted scenes in our home. Take it!
Take
it!
And the thing is, we just have endless conversations about, does it feel Star Wars?
I don't think we've ever had a May the 4th like that.
No, it was special. It was definitely the best May the 4th we've ever had.
Are you ready?
Off to Neverland.
Here we go!
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land.
When I first made Star Wars, everybody in Hollywood said, well, this is a movie Disney should have made.
You're more than just fans. You're family.
Best day ever!
Secrets love.
It's about family, and that's what's so powerful about it.
Hey.
When you use a bird to write with, it's called tweeting.
When we visit the world of Disney, we never grow old. It's a Peter Pan, Never Land that keeps us young in heart.
This is Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and you are skywalking through Neverland. I have a good feeling about this.
Hey, Skywalkers! So how is your Star Wars month of May going? So many things have happened. So many things are going to happen. So stay with us because we have so much to share with you. Now, we want to welcome you back to Skywalking Through Neverland. I am Richard Woloski, but now everyone please say hello to my sweetie wife, Sarah, the Mando wife. She's the Mando wife.
I am, because we started off this live stream on YouTube with me wearing a new bo-katan helmet. So much fun. Oh my gosh. All right.
Go put it on for this guy, Chatters, who just joined us.
Okay. Oh, I'm so excited.
All right, check it out. Look at this. This is a high quality item here. Gonna make that sound when putting the helmet on or off.
Yes, it's really neat.
I wonder how this is to scale with the actual helmet. It looks pretty good.
Does it look good?
Yeah, they have a actual size bo-katan helmet, a Boba Fett helmet, Darth Vader, and a clone trooper. And the only one that's really paling in quality is the Darth Vader helmet. It just is not a good sculpt.
But this is beautiful. It's got like battle damage on it. It is so cool. I love it. And a rangefinder.
Look at that, and it lights up. Yeah, this is
so cool.
This is a great collectible.
And it's a great display item too. So
yeah.
We have it on the shelf. Took some pictures. We haven't shared that yet, but
yeah, we figured since bo-katan is really like the new mascot for Skywalking Through Neverland, because our social media just blew up as soon as we posted those Katie Sackhoff videos about 2 months ago now. So now Bo and Tinkerbell are our mascots.
Yes. Fine mascots. I love it. Well, Skywalkers, we are your enthusiastic podcast destination for the many decades of your Star Wars, Disney, and Marvel fandom. So it's time for your weekly Wookiee hug and a little sprinkle of pixie dust for our family of Skywalkers. Now, coming up on this episode, we continue our discussion with ILM Animation Supervisor HAL Hickel. And in this second part of the discussion, we dive really deep into The Mandalorian Season 3. So be prepared.
We're also going to share our day celebrating May the 4th from our experience on KABC's coverage of Star Wars Day to the fun time we had hosting Star Wars trivia at the Signal Hill Library right here in Long Beach.
And our day at Disneyland, too.
And yeah.
It was like a huge 50-hour day. What do you call it?
It's a Gary Marshall day.
Yeah.
You see a Gary Marshall film, it all takes place in one day, and that one day is like At least 50 hours.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now we are being sponsored by Small World Vacations, and they are a diamond level Disney vacation planner travel agency and can help you book your trip to a Disney park around the world or on the Galactic Star Cruiser. And best of all, this service is free. Yep, you heard me, free of charge. So head over there to smallworldvacations.com for a no obligation price quote and tell them Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now, we are recording this from Long Beach, California on May 9th, 2023. Now, to celebrate Star Wars Month, we started a new series of mini 1-minute videos for YouTube Shorts, and Instagram Reels, where we pick one event from each day. So, if you go to our Instagram, if you go to our YouTube, you'll be able to see those shorts and comment. Like, there's a lot of comments on certain ones, get more comments than others. So if you've experienced something in Star Wars history, make sure you head there and check it out. Mm-hmm.
Now, today in Star Wars history on May the 9th, 1979, well, we got to wish a happy 44th birthday to Rosario Dawson. Now, we all know Rosario Dawson as playing Ahsoka in The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and her new Ahsoka TV series coming up in just, a couple of months now?
Mm-hmm.
Now, fans rallied on social media when they heard Ahsoka was going to be made into a live-action TV, or they speculated. I wasn't sure about the timeline.
No, it was well before any Ahsoka series was announced.
And the other
people
fans,
were fan casting Rosario Dawson.
Yeah, so I've just got to, when thinking of Ahsoka, I just necessarily wouldn't have thought of Rosario Dawson.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at her face, the facial structure is right there. And she even responded to those initial tweets with the hashtag Ahsoka Lives.
And yes, please.
Yes.
So at that point, she knew, but something doesn't add up there. If fans were going to fan cast, they would fan cast Ashley Eckstein.
Well, I'm sure many of us did, but yeah.
Yeah, I think this is the work of her agent and publicist.
Oh.
Just put it out there. It's like those celebrities you see on TMZ. How do all those paparazzi know that Harry Styles is going to be at Domino's Pizza? How do they know that? Yeah, because they're tipped off. I think that's what happened here.
Interesting.
Yeah, but aside from Ahsoka, I'm kind of eager to see her in Rent.
Oh, yeah. So you have never seen Rent?
I've never seen Rent.
Okay, so we were culling through the internet on different roles that Rosario has played because of the video that we made for her birthday. And one of the first times I've seen Rosario Dawson is from Rent, where she plays a dancer at the Cat Scratch Club. And a Cat Scratch Club is kind of a striptease club.
Oh, is it? I didn't notice
yeah,
that.
And
What?
She does a striptease basically as her first song in Rent. And Richard just saw it for the first time. He was like, "Whoa!"
I had to watch it like 10 times. Yep.
Mimi, thank you, Mimi. She's a very. I mean, she has more songs and some beautiful ones later on, but that's our first introduction to her.
And I'm willing to watch it a couple more times tonight. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'll gladly show you Rent. It's a fantastic musical.
Yeah, I just knew her from Clerks 2 and 3 and some of the Kevin Smith movies, and from Claire Temple from the Marvel Netflix shows, the Daredevil and the Defenders.
Yeah,
and I met her at a press conference for the Lego Batman movie because she is the voice of Batgirl.
You have a great picture with her, too.
I do, yeah. She just pulled me into her for a big hug.
I'm so jealous.
Okay. If I had seen Rent at that point,
you would have been like, oh.
Yeah, like head exploding. And this was way before the announcement for Ahsoka was made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome.
All right. Also on this day, on May the 9th, but in 2005, 18 years ago, Darth Vader appears on the cover of Time magazine with the headline, "The Last Star Wars." Yeah, we all thought this was it. This was it for Star Wars.
2005, right?
Yeah, for Revenge of the Sith.
Mm-hmm.
So in the article, there was a great article in this issue, And the article is called A Look Back in Wonder. And George Lucas speaks about long-form storytelling. And he says, I've always kind of been fascinated with doing something over 12 hours instead of 2. So he's been thinking about Star Wars TV for a long time.
No wonder Star Wars does so well over on TV.
Yeah, this is what he's always wanted, and he's been talking about Star Wars on TV since the 90s. And I know he's tried over and over again to get something going, but it's always been really, really expensive.
Right, that's the thing. It's very expensive, but now cost is more down with special effects and things, and with the volume.
Yeah, it makes a world of difference. Wouldn't it be funny if he didn't have Disney Plus?
Oh, just like at his house?
Yeah. Now that Star Wars is on Disney Plus, what, like 5 new original series?
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I just haven't had a time to get it yet. It's on my to-do list.
Oh my God.
So George, what goes around comes around. All right. Now, you know what? Before we move on,
yeah,
I kind of want to see Revenge of the Sith, but drawn out, like what they're doing with Harry Potter at Warner Brothers, and they're turning all the books into a long-form film, a TV series,
right,
on Paramount Plus, if Paramount Plus is still a thing at that point. But everyone says for Revenge of the Sith, Padme gets shoved to the background, and the relationship between she and Anakin gets shoved to the background, but there's so much deleted footage of Padme starting the rebellion, and really, I think her story alone could be a good mini-series.
And I think even more of the Palpatine luring Anakin to the dark side, because like if you guys have not read the Revenge of the Sith novel, fantastic. It really fleshes out, especially Darth Plagueis, luring Anakin and his way, or Darth Sidious, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Wait, yeah. And oh my gosh, it's incredible. The book it's fantastic.
And we do have the Clone Wars.
Yes.
To also flush that out. But I want to see something in live action during that Revenge of the Sith period.
Yeah, that would be neat.
Yeah, of course we don't see that in the Clone Wars, but we do see Palpatine / Sidious digging his claws into Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when I was putting this down for today in Star Wars history, my mind started going back to Revenge of the Sith, and just all of the deleted footage out there that really pads this story. Because I think at first the first cut of Sith came in at like 4 hours.
Oh wow!
And I want to see that.
Yeah.
I believe, now that I say that, I saw an article somewhere where fans were clamoring for this 4-hour Revenge of the Sith cut.
Recently?
Yeah, recently.
Oh.
Because it did exist at one time.
Okay.
All right, Disney Plus, you got lots to do today.
Yeah.
All right, with that, let's share our Star Wars May the 4th Fun Day on Things we want to share. You weren't paying attention, were you?
Today in it's very it's similar.
Things we want to share. Things we want to share. Things we want to share.
Okay, so May the 4th. Now, what's funny about this day is, Richard, you have always been against May the 4th as Star Wars Day, right?
Because to me, Star Wars Day is May the 25th.
Right.
That's the day Star Wars came out, Return of the Jedi, then we have Solo. That's really the real Star Wars Day, when Star Wars was born on May 25th.
Right. However, since 2011, right, Star Wars Day has just been getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year as May the 4th.
Because of memes and social media.
Yes. And so we were contacted, about 2 weeks before, by KABC TV station in Los Angeles to weigh in on Star Wars fandom on May the 4th.
Yeah, the producer reached out and said, hey, we need some Star Wars experts, and we just saw your videos going around on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
Great, yeah, we'll be there. And then they said, do you want to do it virtually on Zoom, or do you want to do it in the studio? And I haven't been in a TV studio in so long that I really wanted to go. And you said, let's make a whole day of it.
Let's do it. And then they're like, okay, segment is going on at 7:30 a.m. And we're like, all right, we'll be there.
And it was the strangest thing as we got into the studio
Well,
because
first of all, the day started at 4:30 a.m. for me because hair and makeup for TV, and then we had to drive to the studio, which took an hour through LA traffic. But it was worth it, you guys. But okay, now continue.
So we get to the studio, and to me, I've always worked in TV studios and news studios where there's people hustling and bustling. Ever see broadcast news? People are running everywhere, and Jack Nicholson's at his news desk, and Joan Cusack is sliding underneath filing cabinets. That's what I was used to. But here, it was bare. Tumbleweeds were rolling through the studio and the makeup room because now there's no makeup artists.
No, they weren't there. This is 7 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, and you figured they would be there, but all their stuff was there. But where are they? But you go into the studio, and there's no one but the TV anchor and the weather girl in this big studio.
Giant, warehouse of a room. You have on one side the news anchor, just him. There's no camera operators.
Yeah.
There's remote cameras.
Usually there's 3 or 4 camera operators. You have a stage manager. You have sound engineers.
Mm-hmm. It's all done remote. That control room was out in a separate room. Did you see that? We walked by. So you just had the news anchor, and you could see the news happening and the commercials, and then he'd pop on every 3 minutes or so. And then at one point, this other woman kind of sitting at a desk on the other side of the room, she got up, went over to her green screen, and did a little weather segment. And then she just plopped back down. And no one else was in the room except for us kind of waiting on the side to be ushered to the main table.
They even handed us the microphones and said, here you go, put them on.
Put them on, yeah. We're like, oh, okay.
Okay, I've done this before, so no problem.
Yeah.
It was just a whole different mindset, but
Right.
we're very thankful that they brought us in. They took very good care of us, and then they sat us down at that big giant news desk, and hopefully you've seen the piece by now.
Yes, it's on our YouTube channel. If you have not, it's actually flagged at the top.
And they prepped this whole thing by saying, we want to talk about Skywalking Through Neverland, Star Wars fandom, what's coming up for Star Wars, and
your thoughts on what's coming up.
2 minutes before, we were talking to the host about Disneyland and what's our favorite trilogy. So as we went on, they announced us. That's all that was all in his mind was Disney and what Star Wars trilogy is your favorite. He even said afterwards, none of the questions they prepared for me, I even asked.
Did.
Yeah, I just threw them out the window. I was like, yeah, we noticed. And then it was funny. At the beginning of the segment, he said, so you guys have been doing Skywalking Through Neverland. It's a whole podcast. Is there enough to talk about? Yes.
Yes, there is.
There's a couple of things to talk about in Star Wars and Disney and Marvel fandom. Just 1 or 2 things.
Yes. So now here we are on the lot. The segment was over within 4 minutes, done. And we didn't really know how long it was when he called us on.
We figured under 5 minutes.
We figured short.
We did accomplish our major goal, which is to promote Skywalking Through my fandom.
Yeah.
We wanted to promote our book, and they let us, no problem. So we did. They gave us enough airtime for that.
Yeah.
And talked about favorite rides. I said Star Tours. I was trying to get a little plug in for Rebel Spy Reject because I said, yeah, Star Tours, even though I've never been picked for Rebel Spy. It wasn't followed up. But that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
So after that, they said, okay, you guys are free to go.
Yep.
And
so then we tried to leave to... Oh, go ahead.
You said, okay, is there a commissary that's open?
Right, because we hadn't had breakfast. It was too early to eat breakfast when we walked up. So they were like, oh, you have to go to the other studios, but you guys have visitor badges, so you should be able to get on the Disney lot, basically, which is right across the street from Imagineering as well. So...
Yeah, because this is all Disney owned.
Yes. So we started to go to our car, and that's when we saw...
hold on. Oh.
Yeah. And that's when we saw a coyote outside between us in the studio and the car. And we're like, we're just going to wait right here.
But you know what? They had their top security dog on it.
Yeah.
So basically, there was a German Shepherd chasing a coyote outside of the doors of the studio. It's like, yeah, we're gonna wait here until the dog does his job.
Yeah.
And he did. The dog chased the coyote off the studio.
Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh.
If you go to our Instagram, you'll see the video
Mhm.
how the dog chasing the coyote.
It's really funny. All right, so then we got to our car. We went over to the commissary, and there we get to it. First of all, everyone we see, which isn't a lot of people at this point still, because it's before 8 a.m., like the chefs, they had Star Wars shirts or Star Wars spirit jerseys on, or Star Wars hats or Star Wars jackets.
Some kind of
Like,
representation.
everyone we saw had Star Wars shirts. Then we get up to the breakfast area, and they have a special Star Wars menu for the day, for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. They had root leaf stew for dinner. We didn't get that. We got the fun pancakes that were Star Wars
Mandalorian
themed.
pancakes.
That's
I
it.
took pictures of all of those menu cards. I need to post those.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So that was super fun. We had our Mandalorian breakfast, and we got to talking with some of the employees there or cast members there, and just hit it off. Like, these are our people.
Yeah.
Right?
One woman we were talking to at our table, she was in...
Her name was Carrie.
Yes. And she was in digital promotion and marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So we were kind of interviewing her. She was interviewing us to see about attention spans and what we do and what they do. And really, really interesting. And her husband is a puppeteer.
Mm-hmm.
So we had lots to talk about. I almost
Yeah.
felt bad because she was trying to eat her breakfast. And
Oh, I know.
we
I
had
know.
finished ours.
Yeah. And we went to the store on that lot, and then they said, oh, Imagineering has a bigger store. So we were escorted there by another cast member who was nice enough to bring us over.
Yeah, and this is her last week.
Yes.
Because she was going to retire from the finance department and be promoted into being an Imagineer.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So this woman was very happy.
Yes, she was so excited. Now, she just let us go on the Imagineering lot, and we were walking to the store when they were like, oh, you have to have a cast member with you at all times. So we had to leave. But yeah. So then we were just on such a high. It's like barely 9 a.m. at this point, and we looked at each other and we're like, well, we don't want to go home.
No.
Let's check reservations for Disneyland. And I checked, and they were available. And what's another fun thing about this is it was supposed to rain. And
Well, it was
did
raining
Yes.
up in the valley and in Hollywood because we had an idea, an inkling to go see the Carrie Fisher ceremony in Hollywood,
Right.
where Carrie Fisher was being honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But the news reports we were seeing, it was raining.
And some of our friends had been posting.
Yeah.
And they also, by that point, it was all full. We
Yeah.
couldn't have gotten a good spot.
But
So,
spoiler, next week we're going to be talking with one of our good friends, Lavon Dominguez, and she was one of the 6 people allowed to help create the Carrie Fisher star.
yeah.
So we're gonna hear all about that. We talked to her yesterday. It's gonna be an incredible episode.
Yeah. But meanwhile, back to May the 4th. So we decide, okay, let's make reservations, and we're going. So instead of going home, we drove hour down to Anaheim and went to Disneyland. Now we get on the tram, and first of all, everyone's wearing Star Wars things once again. We get on the tram, and they start playing Imperial March through their speaker system. And it's like, only today, folks, only today. So it was like this big holiday atmosphere. Then we get to Disneyland. We go straight to Batuu, and all of a sudden we start running into everyone we know.
Mm-hmm.
So Max Cervantes and his friends
Yep.
from the Max Effects podcast, he was there.
A Skywalker named Anita came over.
Yes. Yeah, and
was
even another Skywalker too, who she left too soon. We couldn't get her name as well, but yeah, we were so excited to see so many people, and then we ran. Then we were going around Batuu and noticing everyone carrying their giant Cal Kestis lightsaber boxes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
One or two of them.
Oh, the line to get into Dokkandar's was past the marketplace itself.
Almost down to the Resistance area. So
Yeah.
if you're familiar with Galaxy's Edge West, you know that is quite a walk.
Yeah, Dokkandar's is right in the middle. People were waiting in line all the way to the beginning of that Resistance area walkway. It was crazy.
So we were saying before we started recording here that there was 2,000 available here on the West Coast, 2,000 available on the East Coast, and 2,000 available online.
Yes.
So, Meredith, in the Sky Chat, you said that you had gotten the Cal Kestis lightsaber. What number did you get?
Yeah, let us know, Meredith. We want to know. Okay.
All right. Then, as we're over there by Star Tours, a cast member stopped and said, "Hey, you guys were on the news this morning, weren't you?"
Yeah. Which was fun. I mean, we were wearing the same outfits because we weren't planning on going to Disney necessarily after the studios, so we didn't bring a change of clothes. Meanwhile, also, the projected rain was nowhere to be found. It was bright and sunny and kind of hot.
Yeah, a little too sunny.
Yeah.
And then we hit the gift shops.
Yes! So we went to Star Trader and we went to the Disneyana store. So first of all, the Star Trader had all new Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary merchandise. It was beautiful to look at. They also had new the Jedi Adventures, Young Jedi Adventures merchandise.
Right.
With nubs.
The little blue.
A little plush nubs.
Yeah, little blue character.
A little blue
It's like an
Pooba.
Ewok adjacent character.
Yeah, it's a Pooba.
The Pooba, yes.
Yeah, which is so weird. But anyway, so we did a little reel on that merch. Then the Disneyana shop, right at the beginning of Main Street, has a new collection by Jeff Granito Designs, and it's Cantina inspired. He has artwork that he's done, but they've also translated that artwork into bowls and plates and mugs and glassware basically, and a lot of different things. We have a reel on that as well. It's so cool.
We covered all the merchandise and the prices.
Mm-hmm.
And that is on Instagram. Is it also on YouTube?
I think it should be.
Yeah.
If not now, it will be soon.
After we record this.
So we decided, now we could only be there till about 2 p.m. because we had some other stuff. I mean, this day just kept going. Day. Yeah, but we just ran into so many people. We also ran into Mike Celestino, who was doing a live stream for Laughing Place. So you might see us on that live stream going, "Oh my God, Mike, look!" Because we had just bought.
And he got himself plush nubs. And then
we had just bought
we go. We got the bo-katan Black Series helmet. This is such a gorgeous, gorgeous sculpt.
I'll put it on one more time.
Once again, the only one that really does not hold up in quality is the Darth Vader helmet. These are only going for $139.
And with our discount, we get 20%. And we had a gift card, too.
But even at $139, that is extremely affordable.
Mm-hmm.
I would guess that's going for like a couple of $100.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't say that. Okay, $139 is a perfect price.
Yes.
Perfect price. We're happy with that.
Now, we did do an unboxing video when we opened that, which will be out on our YouTube channel soon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Haven't been able to do that quite yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to catch up.
We have so much content from last week. It's insane. So should we show them what we bought? Because this was like, it was like Christmas, you guys. We got to buy lots of things, and we normally don't do that. Like we don't buy a bunch of stuff at Disney. So Disneyana, this is the Jeff Granito Designs. We decided to do this cool bowl because it's just a fun size for one thing. And it's got so many characters on it. Look at
Very
that, the
expressionistic
twins.
artwork.
Yeah.
And it's Cantina, so there you go. Here's my credit card.
Yeah, look at that. Come on. It's so cute. Green inside. It's a really cool size. I just think it's the coolest size ever.
Do you recall what that was going for? I want to say like
$34.99.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say 40, but
yeah, not bad.
I tell Sarah, just get whatever you want and don't show me the receipt.
It's ceramic. Kelly says it's a popcorn bowl. It's a little small for a popcorn bowl. I mean, it's a one-person popcorn bowl, I would say.
Yeah.
Or if you're trying to watch your calories, it's a two-person popcorn bowl.
Yeah.
But it's a good snack size bowl, I would say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cute.
All right, then we couldn't stop there.
No.
They had so much.
Oh my gosh, we had a hard time deciding. I could have bought all of it, but I didn't. All right, so we got the set of 4 dessert plates. This was one of the reasons why. Look at this amazing box. It's cardboard, but it's very thick cardboard, and it can definitely be reused. Should we show them the plates?
Yeah, before you do that.
Oh, yes.
Okay, I don't know how much this is, but I'm going to guess at $49.
I think it's the same price as that.
Oh.
No, you're right. $49.99.
Oh, okay.
Right on.
You get 4 plates, so
yeah.
it makes sense.
Donna's saying that should be a single serving ice cream bowl. You know what? When you're really upset.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or it's good try a cereal bowl. I eat a lot of cereal.
Oh my gosh. All right, so this is the box.
Yeah,
Ooh,
I'll hold it.
look at that. It says Star Wars. Okay.
Because these are kind of fragile.
These are ceramic plates. I thought they might be melamine plates, which is the one that's like scratch resistant and everything, but they are ceramic. But look how cool this is. Made in Thailand. Oh, they're stoneware. Excuse me. So they will chip if you're not careful because they are stoneware. So look at that. How cool is that? Oh my gosh.
That's one.
Oh, okay. You got it? Richard, this is your favorite one. Ooh, careful.
Yeah, this is my favorite one because look at that artwork.
Look at how cool that is.
Yeah, I'm loving that one.
No dishwasher. These are, I wouldn't put them in the dishwasher, even if it is. Actually, it says it's okay for microwave and dishwasher.
Nope.
But
that won't happen.
No, we'll just hand wash them. Yeah. Cool.
All right, we have that one.
Okay.
And then this is your favorite.
This is my favorite. I love the Bith. I love the Bith. Ugh, they're so cool. Come on. That's amazing. And they match my nails. Check it out. They're mermaid nails. Okay. All right, you got that teal and that purple. It's so pretty. And yes, it does have a very 60s feel. And then look at this one. I like this one. This is beautiful colors. Han and Greedo is on this one. So very cool. Now, if you guys are listening on the podcast later, check it out on our YouTube channel. Our live stream will be saved and you can see these plates. So which ones are your favorite? Let us know. Do you like the Bith musicians? Do you like Han and Greedo? Do you like Luke and these aren't the droids you're looking for?
Now, my question is, should we use them or display them?
Oh.
Yeah, that's been a serious question.
I say we should use them sparingly, like for special dessert occasions.
All right, so after we had our mini shopping spree, we raced home because we were going to be guests on our friend Chris Mock's YouTube show, Mocktails, and he's been a huge advocate for our books.
Yeah.
So whenever we get a chance, we go on over and visit Chris, and he just hypes our books, and he loves Today in Star Wars History, and he just got a Skywalking Through My Fandom, so we were able to go through that with him. And he was celebrating May the 4th with tons of guests, tons of conversations.
Yeah.
Then, after that, we had about 15 minutes to rest.
Yep.
Then we had to race over to the Signal Hill Library, where we hosted the Star Wars Trivia Challenge. Now, Star Wars trivia can be very hard when you're producing a show. When you're about to do a show, it's like you could have different kinds of audiences. Some audiences will just be the hardcore. We want the hardcore questions. But some of them are like, hey, you know what? I can deal with the casual fan questions, but with the audience we had, we're all kids.
Yes, and they were young kids too, like maybe 6 and under. I
would say a couple of them were 10.
Ones. Yeah.
Like Ezra.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Oh my gosh. So that another good omen. 2 of the kids at that trivia show were named Ezra. 2 of them. One of them was like 2 years old. So cute. One of them was like 4. And oh my gosh.
So it was the trivia match game, and the trivia were questions like, how loud can you sound like Chewbacca?
Yeah.
Breathe like Darth Vader.
Roll across the floor like BB-8. And one kid did. Did like somersaults across the floor.
Somersaults and a hot dog in it. So they weren't really questions as much as they were demonstrations.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of fun doing it.
They did.
And we gave away one of our books to one of the lucky winners at the very end. And then someone came up and said, hey, are you selling those? Well, yes, we are.
Yeah, so we did. We sold a book. Yay.
Oh, Meredith is telling us in the Sky Chat, if you have my Padawan, I promise he's good for harder questions. Well, tell him challenge accepted.
Yeah.
Now he's got to come see us at the Ontario Comic-Con, which is happening this month, May 20th and 21st, or WesterCon, which is happening June 30th through July 3rd, or probably another library coming up. So we got a couple of events, and maybe San Diego Comic-Con.
Yay.
So after the trivia challenge, we came home and we crashed.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
That was
Crashed
that
so
was a
hard.
good day, and I don't think we've ever had a May the 4th like that.
No, it was special. It was definitely the best May the 4th we've ever had together. Everything just kind of fell into place. Like, it was such a great day, you guys, and we wanted to share it with you.
All right, now before we move on, we want to share something else.
What?
Last night we saw a screening of The Little Mermaid.
Yes, the new live action Little
Yes.
Mermaid coming May 26th.
May 26th. So we're going to do an episode in a couple of weeks where we're going to compare the live action to the animated film.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we can't say too much. Only the social media reaction embargo has been lifted at this point, so we can't do like a review right now.
Mm-hmm.
But we can just say whether we liked it or not, right?
Is that considered a review?
Yeah, you know what? To be safe, we won't say anything, but head to our social media, any of Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. I have it up. And Meredith, yes. A couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, with that, before we get into any more trouble,
Yes.
let's continue our conversation with ILM Animation Supervisor HAL Hickel. And to pick things up, we are going to start talking about The Mandalorian Season 3 and that first episode with Gargantugator, because this is his specialty.
The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian. The Mandalorian. He's a bounty hunter. He's traveling the galaxy. He's picking up assets and blowing up Jawas and collecting the bounty. The Mandalorian. I have spoken.
Now, Mandalorian Season 3, there are loads of big creatures, from Gargantugator in the first episode to Purgles to the Mythosaur. And so you got to work on these creatures finally. So can you tell us what it took to bring that beach sequence between the Mandalorians and Gargantugator to life? And were you on set?
And I know he doesn't have an official name just yet, so we're calling him Gargantugator.
Yeah. So I'll take this opportunity to clarify one thing. There are two of us right now kind of doing the main anim souping duties across the Mandiverse. I did season 1 and 2. I got Book of Boba Fett kind of up and running and was involved a lot early on with some sequences like the train heist and some other things along the way. But there was a point there where I had to segue onto another project, and Paul Cavanaugh, who's great, he's awesome. He and I go all the way back to both of our beginnings at ILM in 96, 97. He took on Book of Boba Fett, and then I finished the other thing. And so I got season 3 up and running, and I supervised things like, or spent a lot of time on things like the asteroid chase that leads to the pirate galleon, the Turtle Gator, at least the first like 2/3 of working on that, and some other stuff. And then I again had to segue off to do, because we've got so many plates going on, spinning in the air at once. Segue, and I think Paul came on. So Paul's the main anim suit. If you look at the art cards at the end, you'll see Paul's name on most of the episodes. However, you'll see my name with Paul's on episodes 7 and 8, because again, just all hands on deck, a lot of moving parts. I came on and souped some chunks of 7 and basically all of 8 in this recent season. So anyways, I just want to say all that to give props to Paul, who's amazing and supervised tons of hard work. And he carried the Turtle Gator sequence over the finish line. But I did put a lot of work into it early on. And Peter Ramsey, sorry, not Peter, worked with Peter a lot on his episode later on where the Mandos saved the day in Navarro. But Rick Famuyiwa directed the Turtle Gator episode. And so a lot of calls with Rick and discussing that sequence and figuring it out. And it's a big complicated thing. It's difficult. Everyone knows water remains a tricky and difficult thing to do in CG and make it look credible and real. And so that was a big part of the sequence. Obviously, the creature's half in and half out of the water the whole time, and it's just a big, complicated mashup of real stunts, actors on wires and so forth, and stunt pulls and guys flying through the air, digital extras and stunts, digital creature, digital water, a real beach to a little, with a little bit of water, and then a whole digital environment. So lots of moving pieces there. It's really complicated. The creature, it was one of those things where once we were kind of heading into Anim, there were still some decisions being made about the design. Not big, completely game-changing thing, but let's make this a little more gatory and a little less turtley. Let's make this a little more turtley and a little less gatory, things like that. And that's always, you hope that you'll pin all that down before it goes to animators. In this case, we were still building the car a little bit as we went along. So there were a lot of complications. But I love how it came out. The fun part, I'll tell you, one of the things I really like about working with Jon
Favreau, yeah,
is that he is super collaborative in a way that goes beyond just inviting us all to contribute ideas to him. He actually is, he encourages a kind of cross-pollination in some of his departments. So in other words, if I'm off working with the animators in the sequence and I have some idea about, what would be cool is if we combine these two shots. These wouldn't be two separate shots. Let's make them one shot, and then we'll cut this shot out and we'll go straight to this and it'll have more impact. I can try that out and pitch it and do it like on my own on the side, work with the animators, do a little re-edit, and pitch that to Jon in a way that isn't disrespectful to the editors. Everyone's on board with it, understands it, and it's just a pitch. Because there are other production environments where that's a little more, people have their sort of territory, and you kind of are meant to stay in your lane, and it's a big deal if you don't. Jon shows are not like that. And, we're all respectful of one another and collaborative, but it's kind of fun because you get to contribute in ways that you might not on other productions. And I really, really enjoyed that. And he even invites, he's fine hearing a pitch to an extent, if you're like, well, what if he said this instead? Because one of the great things about Mandalorian show is there's a lot of helmet dialogue. So there's a lot of opportunity to change dialogue quite late in the process. And so occasionally, not that often. I mean, Jon's a great writer, and we all respect his writing, and that gets us almost all the way. But occasionally there'll be some little tight spot in where we're just like, it's a little confusing how we get from this to this. And we might all be talking about big, complicated visual effects solutions or post-production solutions to the problem. And then, but somebody might chime in with editor, anyone might chime in and say, well, what if they just said this? And then the audience knew when you cut to that's why that was that. And then, everyone ponders it. And even the pitch they make might not be the good version of that line, but it might lead to an idea like, oh, yeah, maybe there's a dialogue fix for this. Okay. And then Jon might say to Noah, who's his production partner, writer, he might say, let's work on that. Let's think on that a little bit. Let's try out some lines there. We'll get back to you, and then it stops being a visual effects problem. And that's always a good thing when you're in crunch. So, but anyways, all that just to say it's fun. It's a fun environment. Jon's just a great guy, and he's not a yeller. He doesn't throw his cell phone across the room. He's not one of those people, he's just a lovely guy and makes it really fun. Dave's the same way. Dave's super collaborative. He's a lot of fun.
Dave Filoni?
Yeah, very funny guy. And the pair of them are just really, the other thing, I mentioned earlier that how much I like working with directors, how that's a really interesting part of the job for me. And one of the things because the Mandalorian was the first streaming thing I'd ever worked on, or TV thing I'd ever worked on. And right away, I realized one of the great benefits of it is I get to work with like 5 directors on a project, not just one. There's Jon and Dave, and then there's, depending on the season, there's Rick, Robert Rodriguez, Steph,
Bryce Dallas Howard,
yeah, et cetera, et cetera. And those experiences have all been terrific. They've really, Dave and Jon, I think, have a real knack for finding directors who fit well within that family. It's been great.
We are location buffs, and when we had met you in Hollywood at the night of the Mandalorian screenings, you had said, "Yeah, we had shot that on a big dirt field in Manhattan Beach." So how much? So was the background must have been all CGI,
Yeah.
but how much of that set was practical, and how much was CGI?
For that sequence we were just talking about, that main little beach area where the water meets the sand, basically, and some sandy. I don't know how big the pool was. Actually, wasn't on set for that sequence. So I don't know how far the pool extended out, but not a lot of it, just enough that you could get 25 or however many extra or stunts and extras and so forth to form the majority of the Mando crowd there for the plate shoot. But the cave and the rocks and mountains behind them is all created, and the whole distant vistas, of course, are all digital. So yeah, it's the Mando series is a combination. It's the volume, of course, and we have a couple of volumes at Manhattan Beach, and it depends on the production what percentage of scenes are shot there. It can be quite a lot, or because there's that. There are traditional standing sets inside sound stages, and then there's exterior work, which is mostly on this sort of dirt backlot, which serves for a lot of different things. And usually we go there when we want proper sunlight, blasting sunlight. So if you've got something like street on Tatooine, then we'll build a street on that lot and shoot out there, or like the Nikto encampment in season 1, or those kinds of things. But when we're in the shady canyon, like when Cobb and Mando meet the Tuscans for the first time, when their little dogs come out, that's on the volume because they're kind of in the shade of one side of the canyon, and that's a good fit for the volume. And certainly big interior spaces like what the Juggernaut vehicle rolls into at the end of that long chase on the jungle planet and into that Imperial base. That big sort of garage in there is a good use of the volume. But even though it was outdoors, the junkyard, in fact, that's one of my favorite volume loads ever. The junkyard where they pick up
Mix Mayfeld.
Yeah, that was a volume load, and just a beautiful one. And in fact, it was a really interesting mix of techniques, because what they did was they built this sort of initial ring of junk, rusty TIE fighter cockpits and all that stuff. They built it in 6 scale as a miniature. So it was like, I don't know, maybe 8 feet long and 2 feet wide. It was kind of crescent of junk, and photographed it, actually photogrammetried it, meaning they photographed it in a way that allows them to create a digital model of it, with the photographs of it being the texture for the model. So they had a digital model. They brought that in as part of the environment for the volume load. Then the volume itself had full-size rusty junk in it for Bill to stand on and the actors to walk past in the immediate foreground. So there's that in the immediate foreground. Then the LED wall, and on the LED wall is this miniature that's now part of the digital environment. So it was a really cool mix of full-size set deck, a miniature that was then digitized, and then just fully digital distant environment. And it just looked amazing. It looks so good.
Yeah, with every season, these backgrounds just get more and more complex, but it seemed like in season 3, they used the volume less than before.
I don't know. It's possible. Yeah, I don't know what the breakdown was. Some I'd have to ask somebody in production, like, what was the percentage of this, that, and the other? And I don't know what it was. But it's possible, because it's a creative thing. Like it's a creative / technical thing. But just saying, like, if a director if an episode just happened to have lots of outdoor scenes in blasting sunlight, then it's going to have less volume stuff in it. And if so it's just really about, you get the scripts, you start breaking down the scripts, and John and everyone start working with the art department, with Doug Chang, and the virtual art department, to just sort of break down. That seems like a good thing for the volume. That seems like a good thing for the backlot. That'll be a standing set, and etc. And then at the end of it, it is what it is, like whatever the percentage is. Because there's no, I could see people wondering if there's a thing like, well, you built the volume, we built the volume, we have a lot of overhead for it, so you have to use it 40% of the time in all your production. I don't think there's any It's just a creative thing. It's just whatever gets written, and then whatever seems like the right solution for that.
Yeah, that'll pay off. It already has paid off just because of what they can do. Going back to that Hollywood screening at the end of February, how was it to see The Mandalorian up on the big screen with an audience just going nuts? Because up until now, there's only been so few Mandalorian screenings, and everything is just on the small screen. So you get to go on social media to see how people were reacting to episodes. But now you get to hear it in real time.
Hear us screaming.
The audience just going ballistic.
I could hear you too. I could hear. Yeah, it was super fun. One of my absolute, and I will admit, it's the one thing I kind of miss in doing streaming stuff is, one of my very favorite things is when a movie opens to get out there to just a regular theater and see it with a regular audience. And I haven't really had that experience since Rogue One, because I worked on a bunch of different things between Rogue One and Mando, but I wasn't like the main soup, and so it wasn't quite the same experience. I helped a little bit out on this film or that film, or I souped smaller projects, and then one thing and another, and then we got onto Mando. And we had a premiere for Mando at the El Cap, and they showed, I think, first 3 episodes. And that was awesome. And then, COVID hit. And between COVID and the fact that it's streaming, I just haven't had that opportunity. I couldn't even just, even without a premiere, I couldn't go see it just at a theater because it was all streaming. So I was so happy. And we barely made it. We had this whole disastrous travel day. Like, for such a simple trip from Bay Area to LA, we had to check it back because there was, we were going to a premiere, and there's, my wife had stuff in the bag. It's, makeup and stuff that you can't carry on. And the bag didn't make it on the plane. So, and we weren't going to get it in time. So we had to scramble and run out and buy some clothes, because we were just like, I was in a hoodie and jeans. Like, I'm not going to wear that too. Because, it's a Star Wars premiere, which is not like a black tie event, but it's still, come on. So
it's Star Wars chic was on.
Yeah, so we missed the red carpet. We ran in and we just got funneled right into the theater when we got there, and right into our seats, and we're just like, but the screening itself was awesome. The response was great, and I was so happy. I was over the moon. I was like, man, I missed this so much, and it was great. Yeah, it was super fun.
What is that one shot that just brought a tear to your eye when you heard the audience just going crazy? Like, now it all pays off, knowing how the fans are reacting to something that I had done.
There were there were a bunch of great moments. Let me think. What's all in season? In the first 2 episodes. So there's the pirate.
The first episode had the Gargantua Gator, which I love calling him Gargantua Gator because he harkens back to the 1950s creatures. Then there was the Purgles.
Oh, that was fun. Really, to get to hear just like the ripple of reaction across the audience when he's in Grogu's in the little dome, and you just see those shadowy shapes. Yeah, that was really, really cool. And honestly, like I said, I mean, I put a lot of work into the turtle sequence and the asteroid chase, and it was just fun to peep the audience in those sequences and see how they were, what the read was, and it was great. People were clapping and having fun and really digging it. So yeah, it's really, really good time. I think one of my favorite, and I've got, I don't know if you can hear it. I know Google Zoom's background noise suppression is pretty good, but I've got paving going on outside my street, and they just fired up some noisy thing. Oh, good. But with seeing Rogue One with a real audience on opening weekend, that was super fun, because, and even actually the premiere audience was really responsive, which is not always the case. Premiere audiences are a weird mix. You've got the big fan contingent that they invite, which is awesome, but everybody else is kind of a mix of celebrities and business folks and this, that, and the other, critics and it's not always just this like, I'm here because I love Star Wars audience. It's a kind of weird mix. And so I've been to premieres where the response felt a little weak compared to what you get from the real audience. But the response premiere Rogue One was fantastic. Anyways, I saw it on opening weekend, and my favorite part, this is going to sound a little mean, but my favorite part was I wanted to see how the audience was going to handle the ending and how it was progressing. like, because, you know, Bodhi dies and
K2.
I forget the exact word, K, you know, gets
Sure,
killed.
Emway,
and
Baze, Malbus, they all go
Baze
down.
and Jarrett, you know, and you could really feel, you could feel it in the audience that people were starting to twig that this was not going to be a, you know, dun, 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 ending. This was like something else. And, you know, Jen and Cassian get on the beach and that mushroom cloud's going up and the theater was just as silent as you could just hear a pin drop. It was amazing. And, you know, the blast system, and I thought, well, how are they taking this? Like, is everyone bummed? I mean, of course they're bummed, but I mean, bummed to the point where they turn against the movie. I was like, are people like ready to walk out? Like, what's the thing? And then you go into the Vader scene and it just played like gangbusters. That was so much fun. I was like, oh, I want to watch it again. I want to watch it again in the audience. So much fun. So yeah.
I have a feeling that's why they put the Vader scene in. Correct me if I'm wrong, because they didn't want people walking out going, "Oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm emotionally tapped, but not in a really good way. This is a Star Wars movie, and I'm not really. If they're not in carbonite, then I want them to survive."
It was Jabez Olson, Gareth's editor, and I think his reasoning was more, it might have had to do with pace and like, we need to elevate after this. But I think it was more about, we got to get Vader into the action. We can't just have him standing there all lonely on his Star Destroyer gazing across at the thing. We got to get him over there. And I think it even is possible that it's something that had maybe even been discussed a long while back in the production process, like was an old idea that was like that. Wait, remember we talked about that? I don't know that for sure. I just feel like I heard that at some point, but I know Jabez thought it up, and I know that a lot of the impetus was just really about let's get him in there. And I love it because there's so many movies that are classics, and you know, I'm not saying one's a classic or whatever. It's really well liked. People really like it, so sure. But I'm just saying, like, you know, your Chinatowns and your Godfathers and your Jaws and all this stuff. So all these great movies. And in all of them, if you read about the making of them, there are all kinds of examples like that of things that were totally not the plan at all. It was not in the script. It was not the idea. They had to punt and just make a choice on the day, or somebody came up with an idea out of left field, or it was in the editing room where they went, let's cut all this out and just cut straight from this to that. And now everyone goes, it's one of the most brilliant cuts in cinema history. And the thing is, it is. But everyone sort of has this idea that those things are all preconceived and well thought out and part of the plan from the beginning, and they rarely are. And I love that because the Vader scene's amazing, but it was a very, very late addition. The other thing that tickles me about it is that because, you know, there were reshoots and Tony Gilroy came on and he's brilliant and he made his contributions to film and all that. But Gareth directed the Vader scene. And I was in London because I think we were doing some more ADR for K2. I think that's the reason, because it was long after I wasn't meant to go over for the reshoots. There was no reason for me to go over for the reshoots. But I was there for Rogue One, but not for shooting. But anyways, that scene was being shot during the days I was there. I was like, I gotta get out there. So I made some time and I got out to Pinewood right in the middle of it. And Gareth is just like a kid in a candy shop. And he goes, you know, I'm going to be in the scene. Did I tell you I'm going to be in the scene? Like, no, what are you going to do? It's like, I'm going to pull the lever. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. And it was just so cool. It was just such a cool thing. In that dark hallway, and the saber turns on, you know.
Yeah. Another one of those examples of you can still hear the audience ringing in your head when they see that red lightsaber ignite.
It's also one of the most quoted scenes in our home. Take it!
Take it!
Yeah.
It applies to so many situations.
The metal creaking, stressing sound as they're all like listening, and you know, it's great too because it echoes the Rebels in New Hope hearing the ship docking sounds. It's sort of a similar vibe. It's obviously a very similar hallway, and it's just it's great stuff.
No one can make an entrance like Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, the other thing that was like completely magical for me about working on Rogue One. Well, a couple things, because when the Disney purchase of Lucasfilm was announced, then some while after that, it was announced that, you know, we're going to be making more Star Wars films. And so I was telling anyone who'd listen at ILM, I want to work on I want to Anim Soup the first of these Star Wars films. I got to get on that. And this is before anything had been anything other than we're going to make more Star Wars films. That's the only thing that had been announced. And so people were like, okay, well, we'll see what happens. And, as usual at ILM, they take that into consideration. It's not like folks like me can demand what project we do next, but they want to hear from us and what we would prefer to do and all that. And they take it into consideration. Anyways, so then the news comes out that it's JJ doing Force Awakens. And I knew then that I would not be doing the film because JJ Abrams hates me. No, because he never made me.
We don't want to hear that story.
Because he'd already done several projects with ILM. Star Trek, Cowboys and Aliens. I think that came before Force Awakens. I think so.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't JJ. That was John.
John Favreau, yeah.
Super 8. What was that? What was that before or after? Anyways, I know he'd done Star Trek, and I could swear he did something else with ILM. Anyways, the visual effects supervisor he worked with was Roger Guyette, who's brilliant. And the Anim Soup he'd worked with, Paul Cavanaugh, again, my friend Paul, who I mentioned earlier. And quite often directors they kind of get a creative team and they're comfortable with them and they want to work with them. So I knew as soon as they announced JJ, I knew it was going to be Raj and Paul on Force Awakens. And I thought, dang it, missed my chance. Because I've been, I'm super proud of the work we did on the prequels and my part in the prequels, my small part. I'm super proud of that. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But there was a lot of consternation about the prequels back in the day, and it was, it was not fun in some respects, like the reception. Some ways it was great, and actually now it's like a golden age. It's because all these kids who were little kids when those came out are now like, oh my God, I love Jar Jar. And then when I hear that, I'm like, oh.
Yeah, no, they're all like, oh, I was so wrong. I was so wrong to judge those films so harshly.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so there were some folks like myself who were like, God, I want to do it again. I want to do Star Wars and let's try again. Anyway, so I wasn't going to be the dude on Force Awakens. But what happened was only a little while after that, John Knoll stops me in the hallway and he said, hey, have I told you I've got an idea for a Star Wars film? I'm just about ready to pitch it to Kathy and you want me to tell you about it? I'm like, yeah, tell me about it. So he tells me and I'm like, okay, John, we've worked on a bunch of projects together already. I want you to but I still want you to say it out loud. I'm going to be your Anim Soup when this project happens, and he's like, yeah, of course. And it happened. And so it was special because, it was one of our own in visual effects pitched this idea and has the story credit. I get to work with John again, which is my favorite thing. And then also it was Star Wars, but it was an even better version of Star Wars than I could have hoped for because it was in the kind of timeline of the original trilogy, like immediately minutes before Episode 4. So while I'm sure I would have had an awesome time and been very excited and happy to work on Force Awakens, in retrospect, I'm super glad it was Rogue One instead because I couldn't have done both. And I'm super glad it was Rogue One because, I got to stand on the Yavin base, like in a really amazingly realized 360 version of Yavin base with full-size X-Men. I was just like a little kid. I was
Did you
12
make this face?
Yeah, exactly so. I was just like 12 years old, and it's just the best. And a ton of other things just like that. Seeing Vader on the bridge of Star Destroyer, watching him suit up the first time, like watching the costumer, putting the things on and fitting the helmet down over his head. And I just was standing there like 6 feet away, just watching it like, holy Lord. And learning all kinds of crazy things. Like I never knew that the original Darth Vader helmet, and probably the same I know it changed a bit, like they resculpted it and paint job changed a bit over the years. So you can go on the replica prop forum and read thousands of posts in detail about all that stuff. What I never knew, and particularly in the first film, and probably in the second film too, is that it's not all black, like the face part of it. It's a checkerboard of kind of gunmetal gray, metallic gray. So like this piece might be gray on this side and black on this side. And this little panel up here might be black on this side and gray on that side. And it helps just break up the face in lighting so that it never just becomes an inky mask. It's always got, you can see facets to it, but it doesn't read as a checkerboard of gray and black. It just reads like black. I always thought it was just black.
Yeah,
and I remember
me too.
That, and I saw it laying out on the table, prop table, costume table, and I was like, what? And I was like looking at it, and I start Googling it, and I end up on the replica prop forum. I'm like, son of a gun. That's how it's always been. Never knew that.
I had met Dave Prowse at a convention back in '94, and he had an original Vader helmet. It's like, that's not an original helmet. Look how much silver and gray there is on these little panels. He said, okay, let me break this down for you. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it comes down to the lighting. I get it.
And I've always wanted to know, like, was it the DP who said, hey, look, by the way, when you paint that thing, I know a trick. You're going to want to do this. Was it the costumer or the helmet builder who was like, oh, you know, I saw this on a Kurosawa film. They had this samurai mask and it didn't show up and they painted it like this and it looked great or whatever. Like, I'd love to know who the expert was on the film, or whether it was just experimentation. Like they did a film test and went, you can't see any of the cool shapes. It just goes inky black. What do we do? And then they tried something, you know, I'd love to know the story behind that, but I've never seen any, I wonder if Roger Christensen would know. Roger, that's his name? Roger?
Yeah.
I wonder if he's pretty present online. I wonder if I could maybe try and find him on Twitter and see if he could answer that question. I'd love to know.
Yeah, I think he's about the only one.
Norman Reynolds just passed, so.
Yeah, Norman Reynolds is gone, and John Molo, and all these Gilbert Taylor who shot Star Wars. So if you're gonna do it now, or quick, Sarah, find your phone.
He might be the guy to ask. Yeah. But anyways, it was a great, that whole experience for me was just great, and I got a really good solid amount of time on set, which I find just super valuable. Even because sometimes it works out where there's a sequence that we're going to be adding a creature, like it might be a K2 sequence that I've flown over for, and then 3 or 4 days that they're not shooting, then I'm not needed, but I'm there. And then another K2 sequence. So it makes sense to keep me there the whole time, particularly because it's in the UK, so you don't want to be flying back and forth. So because of that, I got some nice long stretches on set, which I just love. I get to know the director much better. I can hear how the director talks to their actors, their DP, the other people on their team. And it's just invaluable. Plus, when you get back home, you know, having sort of this meta information about what happened around the frame, you know, outside the frame while something was being shot really helps when you're doing, you know, adding the visual effects to everything. So anyway, just great. Plus I love London and I just had the best time. Like it was in every respect, it was this awesome experience. So, and I feel like every other day I look on Twitter and Rogue One is trending.
Oh, wow. Well, now for Rogue One, were you in early story meetings with the LFL story group?
No, not that early.
Okay.
I came on more like John, of course, was there. You know, it was his idea. Whereas I came on at a more sort of traditional point for my role. In other words, once the film wasn't just writing anymore. It was in proper pre-production where they're breaking down scripts and making plans for shooting and strategizing the effects and stuff. That's when I came on board. So well ahead of shooting, but not during like story meetings and writing. However, later, because of the reworking of the third act, so on any film like this, you get all these visual effects, most of which are dependent on the footage you're going to put them in. But occasionally, you'll have sequences that are largely all CG, and the space battle is one of those examples, because most of the shots are exterior shots. And, you know, sure, there are cockpit interiors, but, you know, you can kind of get started on something like Space Battle really early, except when all the pieces around it are moving. You know? So we were trying to get the Space Battle up and running, but then, you know, all the third act changes started happening and the reshoots were being planned, and we couldn't just put a pin in it. And we actually wanted to help kind of drive some of the creative decisions. And so that led to a little mini story group, and it was Pablo Hidalgo, Dave Filoni, John, me, Kiri Hart, maybe Rain Roberts, I'm not sure. And we would just meet with a little whiteboard and talk about what we're trying to attack it from a sort of practical production standpoint of like, what can we move forward? But that immediately morphed into a story discussion. Like, we're like, well, what is Radis doing up there? What is he waiting for? What's his purpose? So we immediately turned into a little story group, and it was super duper fun. We can't, you know, that's where John came up with the crashing one Star Destroyer into the other thing. That was John's idea, because he was like, you know, the opening crawl talks about the rebels striking their first blow against the Empire, and sure, stealing the plans feels like a first blow, but I feel like we need a victory in the battle, like a clear, not like the whole battle's a victory, but a clear, decisive moment of victory in the battle. And everyone agreed, and he came up with that idea, and so we went off and animated it. But a lot of other stuff came out of that stuff. We talked endlessly about the logic of the shield gate and whether the Star Destroyer crashing into it turns off the shield over the whole planet, or just causes it to kind of fritz out temporarily, or just opens the gate itself in the center, or what the. And we eventually came up with some logic for that, so that the signal could get out, but it wasn't now a thing of like, well, why don't the rebels all just fly down there now and rescue everyone? That was what we were balancing. It's like, we got to get the signal out, but we can't just fly down and rescue everyone. And I know some people would be like, well, why not? Why can't you rescue everyone? Why don't we do that? Like we were always joking about how, Jin and Cassian are on the beach and the clouds approaching, and then the U-Wing swoops in with K2 with the controls, when they run down behind. We had all kinds of joke, not in that thing. These are just jokes we were making daily. It's like we had one where because we see Bail Organa on Yavin, and then we were like, let's do an Easter egg, a post-credit scene where Bail's in his apartment on
Alderaan,
and he's just like, he's like in his robe, he's just like padding around, and he's making his coffee, and he goes to his front door to get the paper, and he opens the front door, and he's sipping his coffee and looks up in the sky and does a spit take because the Death Star's there. And then we talked about
that's terrible.
Like the crew of the Hammerhead. John really wanted to see escape pods launching in one of the shots to tell the story that they did this heroic thing, but they got away, right? They got out. But then we're like, yeah, and then what? They land on Scarif, and they're there for like 5 minutes, and they look up, and so anyways, Gareth nixed the escape pod thing, but it's open-ended. You can believe the escape pods ejected if you like, because there's nothing to refute it. It's just we didn't specifically add it to shots. Anyways, but so that story, little sort of mini story group about the end battle was really fun and contributed some good things to the film, and helped shape the third act. We didn't work directly with Tony on that or anything. It was more we were reacting to what our understanding is. Like, for instance, one of the big changes that happened was originally the Citadel, where the plans are, and the communications tower were two separate places. Oh. And so that's why in the trailer, obviously, you see them all running across these beaches with the AT-ATs, because they got the plans, and now they were headed to the communications tower. And so one of the ideas was to combine those structures and make that a more kind of lean and direct thing, where they steal the plans and then they have to climb to escape, and all that stuff came out of the third act rewrite. But because all that was changing, that changed what the other rebels who came down with them in the mining ship were doing out in the jungle. What's their purpose? What's the plan out there? And because those two things changed, the times and meanings for cutting to the space battle above changed, like when and why you would cut to the action above. And so that's where we were at. We were kind of trying to take the new pieces we were getting from them and go, well, then, maybe this is the moment Radis says this, so that, we understand why he's hanging out, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And it was super fun. Super fun.
Going back to what you said about John Knoll coming up with the idea of their two Star Destroyers crashing into each other. When I saw that, I thought, oh, that's what Marty was talking about in the Death Star conference room when he said to Tag, "Dangerous to your Starfleet, Commander, not to this battle station." Oh, what a deep dig there. Yeah. Oh, that must have hurt. I want to do a supercut where you cut to those two Star Destroyers colliding into each other and Tag going, "Dang it!"
Totally.
Yeah, a lot of these sequences that you talk about, I mean, the music is really what brings them to life. Mm-hmm. And so when you're like prevising these or working on them, is there like a temp track that you're following? Is the music there? Like, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, usually what happens is, the director works with their editor on whatever the earliest version of the sequence is. There are storyboards that have been cut together into an animatic, whether it's previs, usually it's previs. Sometimes even shots from other movies cut in. Like if you're doing a car chase and you've got some previs, but you're like, I want this to feel just like that near miss in whatever, French Connection or something. Sometimes they'll even cut in a couple of shots from French Connection just to say, this is the energy we want down the road when we shoot this. This is what we're going for. And then they'll start selecting temp music. And every director is a little different an editor as well, is different how they handle that. Either they have their sort of favorites, their go-tos, or they might say to their editor, like, what do you think? Editors are great. They have a lot of editors are really good at that, of laying in a music bed and building drama and all that through just existing music. So that's very common. In fact, I'd say most of the things I work on have temp scores that have been taken from other movies or classical music or whatever. And then we start to get, like, once the sequence, certainly in post-production, like after the film's shot, when the sequence is turned over to us, usually it has a sort of rough bed of sound effects that the editor has laid in and temp music. And we're all kind of working to that and wondering, like, how's this going to change when the real music's in there? That's always, every project I've ever been on, it's always been that interesting. And Mandalorian was especially interesting because everyone has got Star Wars music in their head working on that project, right? But Ludwig Göransson's off doing stuff that is not. And I remember when we all first heard it, we were like, what is this?
What is the good, bad, and the ugly? This is not Star Wars.
Yeah. And I knew folks on the production who were like, I think that's a risk. I don't think that's, people aren't gonna, and boy, did it work. People love that. Like, it's awesome. But on Rogue One was much more, I remember there were all kinds of interesting conversations. Like because there were endless conversations at the beginning about, should there be a crawl or not? That had, because this was the first of the spin-off films, and that there was no style guide yet. Lucasfilm hadn't said, we're not doing crawls on spin-off films at that. When we started it, there was no, it was like, well, could have a crawl. Should we do it? Should we not? And then somewhere along the way, it was decided, well, let's not do a crawl. That'll make this feel a little different. But then there was like, should there be the fanfare and the bum, with the Star Wars title? And it's like, and then somewhere along the way, that turned into just that opening note, like bum, and then it goes into those cool shots of Krennic's ship flying. It just was interesting to watch all that. And I wasn't in all those meetings. I was occasionally a fly on the wall in some of those conversations, but not, that was all Gareth and the editors and the producers and even Kathy and everyone discussing, like, how do we want these movies to feel? And even things like the place titles that you see, they're particularly at the beginning of the movie. No, Star Wars had never had that before. Not the movies, anyways. I don't know about Dave's shows or some other place, games or something where that language might have been used, but the movies never had that language. There's no like Coruscant, and so that was like, oh, that's different, And there are all kinds of things that you don't think about until you're making one of these, and then like Book of Boba Fett, he has a lot of dream or flashback memory dream kind of scenes, and Star Wars doesn't have much of that. Luke has his moment in the cave, which isn't a flashback roar, but it's a little dreamlike and it goes into slow motion. But outside of that, in original trilogy, there's not slow motion's not a thing. There's no Zack Snyder speed ramps or just slow motion generally. It's just not a thing George seemed to be into. It's not a big deal. Not a lot of zooms. There's some zooms, particularly in New Hope, but not the big 70s zooms that you think of. There's some though. There's some where they zoom out on a character and reveal the desert or in a character, but not much, and certainly none in the spaceship shots. There's no zooms there. But like, for instance, obviously now, particularly since the remake of Battlestar Galactica, snap zooms are very much a part of the sci-fi language of flying spaceships. But we've steered clear of that mostly on Mando because it doesn't feel like Star Wars. It's not wrong, I mean, as a filmmaking choice, but it feels a little long as a Star Wars choice. We've had a few creep in though.
It calls attention to the filmmaking process rather than watching the story.
Yeah. And the thing is, we just have endless conversations about, does it feel Star Wars? And there's so many things that you wouldn't think, like, we'll do a shot of a spaceship approaching a planet, and we have to do those all the time. And it's really hard to come up with new ones. But every now and then we'll do one and we'll look at it and go, that's Star Trek. That's not Star Wars. And I can't even tell you why in the abstract. If I had one in front of me, I might be able to go, well, it's a little bit about the way the ship is presented and the way we're moving with it or whatever. But just saying it in the abstract, I couldn't define for you exactly what it is. But when you see it, you know it. And we have those conversations endlessly. They'll have it about costumes. They'll have it about sets. Doug Chang is on every call, and John relies on him. You know, we'll see a digital environment of some space city done, you know, first look at it. And John, almost invariably, John's first thing he'll say is, Doug, have you seen this? What are your thoughts? You know, and Doug usually almost always has thoughts, because number one, he's probably the person on Earth who's the most in tune with what Ralph McQuarrie, you know, had done for Star Wars. But then Doug has his own sensibilities and aesthetic that he's brought to Star Wars since, you know, the 90s. And so between those two things, nobody really knows the design language of Star Wars, I think, better than Doug. And John really relies on him for that. And we're constantly having conversations about that stuff.
And I'm sure you have shorthand like, yeah, you know what, McQuarrieized this.
Oh, yeah, totally. That happens a lot with forms, especially building forms and things. I'd be like, you know, it doesn't quite feel McQuarrie. Can you let's turn up the McQuarrie dial a little bit or whatever. Yeah, Doug's more specific than that. He'll say, you know, this, you know, don't taper this in so much, and this band around here needs to be a little wider and more inset, and, you know, that kind of thing. Because he just really, you know, he knows. So.
Wow.
Wow, this has been just fantastic, Hal. Thank you so much for all of your stories and so much to absorb here. We gotta have you on again, because we got like 10 more pages of notes. But wow, we gotta absorb all this, and I'm sure you have Andor 2 to get back to work on. Mandalorian 4.
I can't say what I'm working on next, but it's something like that. Yes, I'm still put it this way. I'm still in the Disney Plus universe. I'll say I'll go that far.
Okay, well, when you see Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni working on the film that's coming up, tell them we said hello. And that's coming out when now?
I don't know. But I can tell you what it's about. I can't.
Wait a minute, is that Kathleen Kennedy right behind you outside your door?
The big guy
and some lawyers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, thank you very, very, very much. And once again, we're going to have you back on to really talk about the California raisins.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Go way back. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you,
and this is the way.
This is the way. Thank you.
That wraps up episode 418 of
Skywalking Through Neverland.
We want to thank HAL Hickel for sharing more of his great stories, and all of you Skywalkers who like, comment, chat with us. We love, love, love your interactions, Skywalkers. We love it.
Now, are you interested in the Skywalking library of books? Autographed copies of Today in Star Wars History, Parts 1 and 2, and Skywalking Through My Fandom, the interactive notebook, are available now from skywalkingthroughneverland.com/book.
We just sent out several from orders from this weekend. Woohoo! Now we want to thank our sponsor, Small World Vacations, for their support. Are you thinking of a trip to Disney parks? Well, you can fill out a Get a Quote form at smallworldvacations.com today, and their planning service is free of charge. So check it out and tell them that Skywalking Through Neverland sent you.
Now, do you want to support Skywalking Through Neverland? Well, consider supporting us through the Skywalking Force, which is our Patreon. The Skywalking Force has access to bonus content in the form of our Zoom discussions on the latest Disney Plus shows like The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, WandaVision. They're all there for your listening pleasure.
You will also get a coupon code for part 1 or part 2 of our book and a 50% off coupon code for Skywalking Through My Fandom. Now, we are part of the Skywalking Network.
Is this for me to do now?
Yes. Where you can find other great shows like Talking Apes,
The Max Effects Podcast,
The Neverland Clubhouse,
Totally Tell Me Everything,
Star Warsologies,
and the YouTube shows Collectopolis and Today in Star Wars History. Just go to the shorts section and you'll see all of our new Today in Star Wars History videos.
Mm-hmm. And on social media, we are at Skywalking Pod for Twitter and Instagram. And please, please, please subscribe on YouTube. Grab your person's phone, whoever, a stranger on the street.
Your person, yeah, whoever that is.
Your kid's phone.
We're very careful to be too specific right now because it's 2023.
And grab it and subscribe to Skywalking Through Neverland on YouTube. Not only will you be notified when we go live and have fun conversations with us, but you will also help contribute to our almost 9,000 subscribers now. And of course, our next goal is 10,000, which would be really cool. So yes, please do that, Skywalkers. Okay, you can email us as well. share@skywalkingthroughneverland.com. Now, don't forget to stick around for bloopers and other fun bits that didn't make it into the show. And always remember that May 4th is now Star Wars Day.
Right after May the 25th.
And
Neverland on Alderaan. Hey, look at those names to the left. They are part of the Skywalking Force, our Patreon.
Become a producer yourself and check out all the Disney Plus themed bonus content available depending on the level you subscribe.
Become a member of the elite Skywalking Force at skywalkingforce.com.